Hello, Squirrel Tribe. So listen, when I was little, my nana and her sisters and a lot of women I knew used to have Tupperware parties. It was the weirdest thing to me. Same thing with like Avon and all those kind of things, where it was the door-to-door sales ladies who would bring you all this stuff, and all your friends would show up, and you'd all gather around, the table, kitchen table, or in the living room, and a saleswoman would tell you how great Avon was and how great the makeup would look, or a saleswoman would show you all her Tupperware that you could buy, all these different things. And I remember those things from when I was little. And what I just saw on Daily Mail, it makes me really sad, because Tupperware, which is based in South Carolina, is now closing the last of its U.S. factories and hauling booty to Mexico. So Tupperware, which was an American brand in South Carolina, is no longer going to be made in the USA or an American brand. It is now a Mexican brand. So this is sad, because they've been around for 78 years, right? So Tupperware, iconic American brand known the world over for its plastic food containers, is closing its last U.S. factory. The 78-year-old company, who initially sold its products at parties thrown by suburban housewives, plans to take advantage of cheaper wages in Mexico. The factory in the small town of Hemingway in South Carolina has produced billions of the kitchen cabinet staples since it opened 48 years ago. Now, the closure was announced on Thursday. It'll take effect later this year. So by the end of 2024, you can say deuces to Tupperware. It's a huge blow to the 148 workers at the Williamsburg County plant. Only 148 people, but still 148 people, right? It's not as bad, obviously, as when a Tyson processing plant closes down or something else closes down and hundreds or thousands of people lose their job. But for those 148 people, it is a huge deal. And for the city, or of what city we say, Hemingway, it's going to be a huge deal, right? Because they're losing something that has sustained that area for 48 years or more. Now, the production will be moved to Lerma, 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 in Mexico, where the company says it already makes items for the U.S. and Canada. So they already have a factory there. They are just going to move the last of the U.S. factory over there. The workers aren't going to go. That's not how that's going to work. And so instead of American employees making an American product for an American company, now you have Hispanic or Mexican employees making a American product for Americans and Canadians. Like, is it still an American product if everything is made out of the country? To me, the answer is no. Just because your name says that you are an American company, like you started it here, if you've moved every single portion of your company out of the United States, you are no longer obviously made in the USA. To me, you are no longer an American company. And that, I think, sucks, because you're going to see more and more of these companies doing what Tupperware is doing. And we'll talk about why in just a second. So Tupperware was founded in 1946 by chemist Earl Tupper, if you wondered where the name came from, Tupperware, whose airtight plastic containers helped food last longer for families still struggling after the war and the Great Depression. It quickly became the go-to name for any plastic containers. After Tupperware threatened to relocate to Tennessee in 1993, after it opened in South Carolina, their first factory in April 1976, they threatened to move to Tennessee in 1993. The state offered tax breaks. South Carolina offered tax breaks, so the company stayed. Now, the company stayed, and the number of workers grew to 1,300. Right? By then, the 900,000 square foot plant was producing 173 million tubs and containers made of Tupperware's trademark colorful plastic. Big box retailers offered their own versions. Sales dipped, and there were layoffs, 300 of them in 1996, 250 in 2005. This is according to the local Post and Courier. The layoffs follow a tough year for the 80-year-old company, who is headquartered in Orlando, Florida. So they're headquartered in Orlando, Florida. They started off in South Carolina, and now they're moving all of the whole kit and caboodle to Mexico. In April, Tupperware warned it had substantial doubt it could stay in business due to waning demand for its plastic containers and mounting debt. In a U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission filing, the firm said it was in a challenging financial condition. The announcement came just days after the New York Stock Exchange said that Tupperware stock was at risk of being delisted because the company had failed to file the mandatory annual report. That's not good on Tupperware's end. It's not good for people who happen to have stock in Tupperware. Let's just throw all that out there, right? Bosses say they will offer early retirement and a payoff to eligible staff, plus try to find them work at other local businesses. So whatever you were doing for Tupperware, they're going to try to help you relocate to somebody else's company. They're going to let you retire early, try to give you like a early payoff for people who were supposed to stay longer, and maybe get, what's it called? Y'all, I can't think. My brain's not braining. What's it called? Compensation isn't the right word. The retirement package. I can't think of the name. Whatever. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Now, the company has always been a business focused on people, so we'll take important steps to take care of our Hemingway team. Tupperware had sold the Hemingway plant last fall to a real estate investment company for $15 million, and then they leased it back. So they sold it because they needed the cash, they needed the money, and then leased it back. So now they're paying a monthly thing instead of, all their money being tied up in this brick and mortar location. After Earl Tupper founded the company in 1946, its products soared in popularity through the 50s. Tupperware parties. Let's see if there's something else here that's interesting. The Tupperware company, y'all, this is the sad part. It was trading at $1.50 on Friday, down from a high of almost $100 in 2013. So just 11 years ago, $100. Today, $1.50. Can you imagine if you had stock in Tupperware with the New York Stock Exchange? You had a bunch of money invested in there because you were, 50s suburban housewife who did the sales, or even, 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever, or you just had money in it or stock in it because you saw that it was a company made in the USA and everybody used it. So you were consistently, on a high rise with your returns, your earnings, your yields, whatever the words are. I'm not a financial expert. I have no idea. But to be down to $1.50, can you imagine how much money people have lost if they weren't paying attention and did not get out in time? They have lost a ton of money from $100 a share to $1.50. Whew, that is awful. Now, according, what does the rest of this say? The rest of it doesn't matter. So the reason this is important, let me just fully put this out there. The reason this is important is because you have to think, the more we're having to pay employees, think about McDonald's in California at $20 an hour to flip burgers and do whatever else they do. Yes, I know it's hard work, but $20 an hour, minimum wage is not supposed to be enough to, own a home, have a car, insurance, pay student loans, all these other things. It's minimum wage for a reason. It's supposed to be for 16 to maybe 21-year-olds. And then you're supposed to, that's what they say, move up to a higher paying job, right? Well, the higher we continue to raise our pay scales, the more things start to cost, the harder it is for these companies to continue to employ people in the United States and pay them, because the prices of paying and the price of your health insurance, your 401k, all these other things are going through the roof. And so many companies are having a hard time keeping up with it because they're not making the same amount of money on the back end. So you have numerous companies who are laying people off, who are closing locations. Best Buy is laying people off and closing locations. Even Amazon's laid people off. Tesla is laying people off. Elon Musk is cutting whole entire groups of people, his supercharger station people, just cutting them out completely, getting rid of them. More and more companies in the United States are laying people off. And those same companies are willingly taking their business to Mexico, to Canada, to China, to the Philippines, to Taiwan, to other countries where they can pay much lower rates, much lower wages, and they don't have to have health insurance. They don't have to think about 401k. They're not paying the same taxes that they have to pay here. They're not having to worry about unemployment benefits. They don't have to worry about workman's comp, all these different things that are slowly making it so that the companies here in the United States no longer want to be companies in the United States, because you're taxed so much and you're having to pay so much that it's making it almost impossible. Because in order for them to keep up with the cost of their brick and mortar store, the cost of having employees, and the cost of manufacturing everything, they're having to raise the prices of things. And there are less and less people who can afford to then go buy these things or partake in whatever service this is. And so it's this constant back and forth battle of, shooting each other in the foot, basically. And it's getting worse and worse. And so you have more and more companies willingly moving to other countries. You're not going to have anything left that's made in America. We say all the time, avoid the big box stores, screw Walmart, screw Target, go to mom and pop, which sounds amazing. But we all know that if you go to mom and pop, you're paying twice or three times as much as if you went to Walmart, Target, or one of these other places, because they don't have the same ability to buy at cheaper costs like these big box places do. So they're having to raise the prices. And how many of us are able to go there and buy the same thing that we could have bought over here for three times the cost? It's a rock and a hard place. That place where we as citizens are stuck is between a rock and a hard place. You want to keep American companies going, but at the same time, as an American, you're not getting paid enough to keep American companies going. Do you see how this circle of what is like? It's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely crazy. And especially when you throw in an administration who is giving all these rebates and tax cuts and all these other things to other countries to come here, not even to its own citizens, its own businesses. It's giving rebates, or not rebates, it's a stupid word, tax cuts and all these different things to foreign entities, not even to American-made companies. It's absolutely ridiculous where we are in 2024. The people call, what's happening. They're like, oh, look at the progress we're making with electric vehicles. Look at the progress we're making with blah, 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 blah. But when everything is slowly going downhill, I don't call that progress. I don't know why people call what's going on in our country progress, because it's not. Yes, it's a progression from point A to point B, but that doesn't mean it is a good progression. You can still have downhill progression. So the word progress to me should not be used in many things when it comes to what's going on in our country right now, whether it's what's going on at the border, what's going on with the draft that I just talked about in the previous video, what's going on with unemployment rates, what's going on in the White House, what's going on with housing costs and with gas prices, with food prices, with absolutely everything. None of that is progress. None of that is progress. Nothing that's going on today is making things better for you and I, for people in this country. Not a damn thing. I don't know where people think progress is, but it sure is not where I've been looking. Like, that's all I got. It's crazy to me. So it's sad that you have another American-made company packing up and moving on. Now, at least they're still in business. There is a plus side. There is that silver lining. At least Tupperware is still in business. But the downside is that the only reason they're still in business is because they were able to move to a country where they were able to financially able to stay in business, because staying in business here in the United States is financially difficult. That's the only word I can think of. Financially difficult to be a company in the United States as an American company. Y'all, really? Like, that's where we are? Absolutely crazy. We'll see what happens in November. And then if maybe things swing around, maybe Tupperware will be back in a year or two. Who knows? Just depends, I guess, on what happens in a few more months. So there's that. SquirrelTribe, I love you guys immensely. Thank you for letting me have this conversation with you. See you on the next one. Bye.